Did Deep Six the AI trend? Let's talk about it today. One of the strongest trending themes over the last couple of years has been the AI theme. The AI theme is something that we've been talking about, that we've been recommending trades in, that we've been trading it ourselves for the last 2 years. Two of the highest performing trades that we've gotten our students in have been in NVIDIA and Taiwan Semiconductor. Now, over the weekend, there was news that came out that talked about the DeepSeek AI program out of China. And essentially what they were showing was that if you compared DeepSeek AI with ChatGPT across a whole bunch of different performance metrics, capability metrics, was showing that DeepSeek was as good or better than ChatGPT. But here's the thing. Not only was it as good or better, but it was also free. Now, a number of the companies that have been tied to AI, both big companies and small companies, have been going up immensely over the last couple of years, and their PEs, their profit earnings ratios, have been rising and rising and rising. They've been trading at really high valuations, and it's been on the idea that eventually this AI theme is going to kick in and they're going to make a bunch of money. The top performing companies so far are what we call the pick and shovel companies. So if you go back, for example, and you look at the gold rush, you go through and everybody was going to the West Coast to try and discover gold. Well, who were the companies that were really profiting? Not so much the gold miners or the gold seekers, but the companies that made the shovels and made the picks and sold them to the miners themselves. Same thing in crude. You had the people that went, the wildcatters that went to go find crude, but then, of course, you had the companies that made the oil rigs and the drills and so forth, and those companies kicked ass. So in AI takes an enormous amount of computing power. And so the companies like NVIDIA is a pick and shovel company. They make the chips that drive AI. So in this first leg of AI, the biggest benefactors of the trend have actually been the companies that make the chips, like NVIDIA and Taiwan Semiconductor. This is one of the reasons we've been long them. So when this DeepSeek AI information came out over the weekend, everything came into question about these stocks. Are they too expensive? If the model's free, how can you justify an incredibly high valuation? And yesterday they got clobbered. So is this the end? Is this the end of the AI theme? Let's talk about this today. First of all, let's talk about DeepSeek versus ChatGPT. So first of all, I'm not a developer, not a programmer. I'm not a technologist. I've done a lot in the space in terms of I owned a company that had a $30 to $40 million a year technology budget and hired some of the top technology talent in the United States. Our staff was unbelievable. But my chief technology officer, my CTO, was the one who hired them, managed them, and I didn't do anything with that. And I don't understand it like many of you watch this video do. I know what I want programmed. I know what I want the outcome to be. I can communicate that to a developer, and I always have developers doing work for me. So in that regard, I'm comfortable with technology. I use it in all facets of my life. And specifically with ChatGPT, I have been leveraging ChatGPT in unbelievable ways. In fact, as a quick sidebar, we just did a 3-day event in San Juan, Puerto Rico with my mastermind group. And we went through and we finished our goal setting for 2025. And then our goal setting for the quarters, for the months, for the weeks. And we did it very differently this year. We did it all with ChatGPT. And that blew their minds of the power of what you could do with ChatGPT. So I use it every day, use it multiple times every day. And it's been an unbelievable tool. Of all the things I've used in my life, I think ChatGPT, for me specifically, but AI in general, is going to have the biggest productivity boom in the history of mankind. So there's your bull story. However, when DeepSeek came out, I didn't know a lot about it. So I went and I studied it. Again, I'm not a technologist, so many of you would look at this and would know far more than me. But I looked at the comparison between DeepSeek and ChatGPT. Now, DeepSeek is an open source program. So what this means is they open the source code up to anybody who wants to use it, and then you can come in and you can write your own code. And the code base will grow by the coding of other users of the program. That's why it's so cheap. And so essentially they give it away for free so they can be open source. So if I look at OpenAI has a big technology budget. They have a big technology team that operate in secret. The advances they make, they don't tell anybody. At DeepSeek, they show it to everybody. Everybody can add code to it. Everybody can build it. Well, if you look at it, of course, makes sense that DeepSeek is free because it's open source. And ChatGPT has a free version, but if you really want to use it, you got to pay. That's one of the keys as to why DeepSeek has made the progress that they have. But then the question is that the right model? Might seem like it on the surface, but when I went through and I was looking at it, this is what I observed. To me, the power of ChatGPT is the fact that it knows me. I still spend time educating it about who I am. What's my history? What's my background? What's my family? What's my health? What's my strengths? What's my weaknesses? What do I love to do? What do I hate to do? What are my goals? What's my mission? What's my purpose? I tell it all of these things. I talk about how I trade. I talk about how I think markets. Talk about a lot of the techniques I use, the tools I use, the patterns I use, how I interrelate all of these things. I'm constantly educating it. ChatGPT gets smarter and smarter about who you are. DeepSeek is unbelievable if you ask it a question, but it has no idea who you are. Because it's open source, it can answer very complex questions, but it cannot answer questions about you. So to me, the advantage of ChatGPT is actually its memory, which in DeepSeek, you don't get it. Now, with that, it's very interesting because I think the limitation of ChatGPT is you can very easily max out the memory. The amount of memory they give you is limited. It's not even a lot. It doesn't matter how much you pay. There's nothing you can do to get more memory. So that memory is precious. It has to be devoted to the exact right things. So for me, I devote all that memory to everything it knows about me. Anything else we can bring in from the outside and we can take it back out. If I go through and I create my goals, I don't leave my goals there. I move them out. If I create a project plan or I put together a business plan or some strategy, I do not leave it there. I move it out. I move it out to another program like Notion, where then I have a relational database where I can scan for it. Can't do that in DeepSeek, at least as far as I understand. So even though it's free, even though it has a lot of power, it does not have the practical application for me that ChatGPT does. Now, ultimately, I'm sharing my opinion with you on this, but ultimately, this doesn't even matter. What matters is what is the market doing, right? I said up front, I'm not a technologist. I share what my view is, but I'm not an expert. I am an expert at patterns. I am an expert at market environments. I am an expert at knowing when trades are over. I'm an expert at knowing how to manage trades. And so with the AI theme, it doesn't even really matter what's going on. I manage the theme by what I see in the charts. So when I go and look at what happened, let's go look at a couple charts and see for yourself. Here's a chart of NVIDIA. And we can see these have monthly bars, these have weekly bars, these have daily bars. And we have volume for each of these bars. And one of the things we can see is if we go back to 2023, you can basically see that NVIDIA has been going parabolic. Right? It's exploded. Remember, it had a 10-for-1 split last year. So, I mean, it's gone from essentially 30 to 140 in the last couple of years. That's why everybody loves it. It's like the most well-known, most owned stock in the world. So this is the monthly bars, these are the weekly bars, and these are the daily bars. What we can see here in the daily bars is yesterday, here on the news, NVIDIA had a big gap down, traded lower, on really, really high volume. Now, a lot of people would say, oh my gosh, it's over. It's a panic. It's too soon to say that. Whenever we analyze volume, whenever we analyze price action, I always say that interpreting volume and price action in the market is a process. It's not an event. It's not a single bar. It's always a process. So when we have a big down day like yesterday, of course, it's not good if you're long. We're long. Now, what's actually great for us is I actually hedged up a big chunk of my position in the last few weeks. this bar right here, which was on January 8th, right here, NVIDIA had this big gap up on news from a conference about their future projects. It had a big gap up. It gapped up higher the next day. And now it was threatening to make new highs. But then it had this massive down volume bar. And when I saw this was a very bearish bar. So we hedged up our position by selling calls in March on this day, on the big down day. Right. And that's been working out really well. Then we rallied back up. And when we rallied back up in here, I decided to go buy 1-year puts against the position. And that way I had it out there and I had my hedge so that I took any big problem off the table. So I was buying 117 puts in January of 26 against the position. So I'd bought puts, I'd sold calls, still long, but I had this great structure on that protected me in case something like this happened. One of the things I always talk about with my students is that we always want to trade from a position of strength. What does a position of strength means? It means when we trade from a position of strength, we never have to be in a hurry. We can always take our time. So when something like this comes out of nowhere, it came out of nowhere, and you get the big gap down, most people are in a panic. They're freaking out. Their trade's over, not us. We've already hedged everything off. We can be patient, and we can wait and see what develops. Right? So we closed lower yesterday. Okay, now we have a very significant point in the market that we need to watch closely. So on this big gap down, this big negative bar, now we start watching what's the price action in subsequent days. Now with this bar, if we take these lows out, if we trade below the lows of yesterday and we do this on strong volume, this market's in trouble. And quite honestly, in the framework of how I've been managing this trade, we probably will be liquidating our entire NVIDIA position that we've been long now since January of last year. However, if we take this high out, we trade above this high, and we trade above this high, and especially if we do it with volume, then this is going to be a significant low. It's going to be a significant low. And if that happens, I may be taking my hedges off and getting even longer. See, I don't know yet. I have ideas, but I'm not making a judgment. I'm letting the market tell me what's going on, and then I'll make the appropriate response. So that's how we're looking at NVIDIA. Let's look at one more. We talked about Taiwan Semiconductor. Let's look at that one, right? Taiwan Semiconductor, in all honesty, I kind of screwed this one up last week. We've been long Taiwan Semiconductor. This has been a great trade for us. And just at the same time that NVIDIA put in that high, Taiwan Semiconductor broke out to new all-time highs. It did it on strong volume. And then it had this really negative bar, just like NVIDIA did. And so I'm long it. And when that happens, I sell calls against my position. Now I've got a hedge on. I let it work. I still think Taiwan Semiconductor is going up, just like I still think NVIDIA is going up. But I sell the calls because that gives me a hedge. And if we sit in a range for a few months, which I thought could happen, these calls will just wither away, go to zero, and they'll lower my basis. All right, so that's what's happening. And these calls are working. But my plan was, and this is different than most people, if NVIDIA makes new highs, this is such a significant area that if the market can push through it and make new highs, I'm going to cover my short calls. Remember, that would be a breakout to new all-time highs. And you can see it right here in the weekly chart, breakout to new all-time highs. Well, it broke out in here, and I covered my calls. So I was longer. I was running a workshop. I wasn't looking at this as closely as I should. And if I had really zeroed in on the price action and had really been focused over here on the weekly chart, I wouldn't have covered these. Just a fact. But it is what it is. What's most important is that I follow my rules. And my plan was cover the calls. So I've had a plan. If I had done my homework, I might have adjusted the plan, but I didn't. I followed my plan. I covered the calls, and then bam, down we go. Now, I always have hedges on. So I've been long the 175, 155 put spread in March. It was worth like 50 cents. It looked like it was going to go out worthless. But on the move down yesterday, that put spread exploded. It helped cover My loss in the long stock, it was a hedge. So it supported me to stay in a position of strength. No sweat. So I'm doing just like NVIDIA. I'm watching today and I'm seeing what's going to happen. If we take this low out, and we take this low out, especially with volume, we take out any kind of decisiveness, our Taiwan semiconductor position is probably coming to an end. It's fine. We'll walk away. It'll be a great trade. But you can see it's coming back today. I'm going to watch it. And if it can take out this high, well, that's going to open the door for it to go back to the highs. If it goes back up to the highs, well, then I'll reevaluate it. Maybe I'll hedge it up there, or maybe I'll think it'll break through. But notice what I'm doing. I have a plan. I have rules. I'm following the plan. I'm not panicking. I'm not making rash decisions. I'm following my plan. This is how you trade at a high level. Trade at a high level by following your plan. Trade at a high level by having option structures that limit your risk, that you're able to manage the position. So, where are you with this? Did you panic yesterday? Did you have a plan? Were you in a position of strength or a position of weakness? Did you have hedges on? And what are you going to do now? How are you going to manage it? Remember, I have a theme. I have a belief in the theme. But ultimately, what matters is not my belief in the theme. It matters what this chart says. If you trade like this, you will make a lot of money. So it ain't over yet. Could be over soon, but it's not over yet. So we'll be patient and we'll watch and we'll see where this goes. So with that, what day is it? That's right, it's Tuesday. And it's not just any Tuesday. Yeah, it's Trader Tip Tuesday. And Trader Tip Tuesday is where I come to you with tips like today, where we look at the theme, we look at the price action, we look at the volume, and we talk about managing positions of strength. A mindset that takes you to managing your trades at an elite level. I'll see you next Tuesday.